Wow, man, we just got done interviewing Barry Habib, and I've got Adrian here, I've got Michael here, and we're just like mind blown. I mean, there's a lot of great information. Adrian, what were some of your takeaways and thoughts, and how do you interpret what Barry was sharing with us?
Yeah, so what I would say is it for as Mike, we were just had just a brief conversation in regards to understanding. I think the average agent, the average lender, the average entrepreneur listening to that call, a lot of it's going to fly right over our heads. And the biggest thing that I got, and I'll talk about what he talked about, but I'm going to say is more on the learning side, right? He ended the call saying the number one thing we can invest our money in is our mind. And I would say to all of you real estate agents, all of you entrepreneurs, is really understanding and learning exactly what Barry is talking about on this call. Yes, understanding what he's saying, but really taking the time to understand what is the treasury bond? What if we look at inflation, what does inflation mean, right? I think if you take I know if I was to look at some of the people we know, if I was to ask what's inflation, I would say 99.9% of them won't be able to tell us that. So the biggest thing I got is really taking the time to learn what Barry has learned, really take the time to understand the different numbers that change our interest rates, that drive our market, the way that Barry does, the way that Michael does, the way that you do, Ty. So I think on an entry level perspective, I'm speaking to newer agents here and newer entrepreneurs, is really taking time to learn that. Now, what I got out of it is understanding how good this market is going to be this year and understanding all the different numbers that play a big role in that. Understanding the fact that we're going to remain, maybe interest rates are going to go up a little bit, but because supply is so low, because we're not seeing that supply hit the market the way we used to, we're also going to see a little bit of the appreciation in prices because of that. So that was my biggest takeaway. And I know something I'm going to utilize out talking to clients, talking to other agents and entrepreneurs. Those numbers were huge.
Spot on. Spot on. Spot on. I know that Adrian's going to jump off because I know he has an appointment. So I love that. I know you're absolutely crushing it this month, dude. So great job to you and the team and everybody, man. So yeah, whenever you have to go, just let us know. Michael, how about for you? What were your thoughts and kind of takeaways?
Well, there's so much there I want to cover kind of slower for folks. So I was lucky in this conversation, right? My undergraduate degree was in economics. I have a master's or an MBA. I've been in the finance world for several decades. So I was taken in when he was putting out, that's kind of my jam, right? But I've been doing this long enough to realize that a lot of the stuff he's a fast talker, right? That it's going to blow a lot of people away. So I'm going to go from memory in order because people, this will be important. The first aha moment for me was actually something I had never thought about. And I can't say that very often. Right. I've been doing this for a long time. I consider myself an above average real estate investor. Again, economics is my jam. The birth rate, the average homeowner buying at 33 years of age. Cool. Got it. Then the thing that got me was go back to 1974, which was the 1973 and 1974 was the low for births, right? I happen to know that was when my sister was born. I was born in 72. My mom talked about all the time. There was not much of you there. They were closing schools as we were growing up, right? Because the baby boomers were gone. We were kind of the trough of births. So I remember that. I had no inkling of adding 33 to 1974 and going, oh my God, we're going to have a potential real estate bust because there's not enough buyers. That was a new insight for me. That was powerful.
Yeah.
Right?
100%. Yeah, that was good. I did it. It's funny, I have that circled birth rate.
Yeah. And then to translate that to today, because first off, it's interesting to go, oh my God, I never thought of that. Cool. But what do I do with it today? And oh, by the way, the millennials are aging into 33 at record numbers. And now I have talked about that, but to do again, right, just to do the math, and it's like, God damn, we're going to have 3 or 4 years of just craziness. And then you add on top of that, this health crisis, which makes work from home and work from anywhere on top of the 33-year-olds that were coming. It's going to be bananas. It's going to be freaking bananas.
So good. So good. I want to just say too that like, I mean, I'm a knowledgeable guy. I don't, obviously I don't have my MBA, no finance degree or anything like that, but I consider myself a knowledgeable guy, 3 decades. When he was sharing, I was blown away. Like, man, I don't know anything. Like I'm brand new at this, and like in that comparison, like he takes the level of expert to a whole nother level. And what you shared, Adrian, investing in yourself, investing in learning, and always learning, always green and growing, and really having that white belt attitude, even though you may be a blue belt or a brown belt or even a black belt at what you do, but really having that white belt mentality, is so strong. And I would share, I felt very grateful and appreciating that I've got you in my life, Michael, and that, like literally finding you and connecting with you, Adrian, and I meeting you, whatever it was, a year or two, year and a half, 2 years ago, has been profound because, again, following your news, everything that Barry said, in my opinion, felt like very in aligned with what you've been sharing, your kind of thought process and direction. 100%, I felt like it supported that. But even what I love is how granular, how deep he went down the rabbit hole on very specifics, like you said, the birth rates, population, affordability, not looking at hourly incomes, but looking specifically at weekly incomes, because people are working more hours. They're not working 40-hour weeks. Nobody's working 40-hour weeks anymore. If you have a job and you're in demand, you're probably putting in some overtime and making more money, higher income. So I found that to be really profound. Adrian, other thoughts?
What got me is also, he said at the end, the plug will eventually be unplugged to the stock market. I thought that was really good. I think some numbers that I'm not looking at, because I am starting to understand what Michael's been talking about. It's starting like the last call we did. Mike, I'm watching every single one of your videos. I'm writing stuff down, going on to Wikipedia, going onto the dictionary, looking it up. What does that word mean? So when I hear that, in my mind, it's like, okay, what else is he looking at? What are the numbers that he's looking at that we're not looking at? So just little things there that I think we can implement.
I guarantee you,
super grateful for you guys.
Yeah, the one thing that just highlights that, I talked about it today on the daily financial news, trading volumes, right? I don't remember what the numbers are, but they were skyrocketing for 2021, and we're only 3 weeks into this thing. They're up 5 million shares a day from the peak, or from the average of 2020. To Barry's point, that is stimulus money and no rent and forbearance. And I'm gonna go either to his point, I'm gonna go gamble, or I'm gonna put in Robinhood and play. And again, I invested in 99. I had 200 grand that turned into 40 grand because it caught me. And he's like, dude, the plug will pull. And when he said that, I'm like, yep, it's going to get pulled. So the question is when. So that was another one. You're right. That was good.
That's good. I have to run, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Michael, appreciate you. Love you, brother. TY, appreciate you. Love you, brother. See you guys real soon. Thank you all for tuning in. See you next week. Thank you, Ty. I'm personally going to excuse myself.
He's going to go get a contract signed. He's going to go get another deal. So
good for him.
Yes, I am. I'm actually taking the one reno at a time concept. I'm going up the mountain to go look at some rental property. So, Michael, that's for you. Thank you, brother.
Take care.
Talk to you. So, Michael, it's just the two of us. What else, man? I mean,
there's a lot.
You got the big brain, man. I joke. You got the big brain. What else did you kind of take away from that?
The other one that's going to shock people, and I promise you we're going to get some comments on, was when he broke down what happens to interest rates with debt. Remember, he talked about an expensive car, right? When you bring out, right, the expensive car financed, right? It brings economic activity forward. And, the dealer gets paid, the manufacturer gets paid, the sales guy gets paid, or salesperson gets paid. But then you're left with debt. That means you can't buy future things, right? It sort of slows growth. And his point, again, it's going to drive some people crazy. His point is, hey, we're at $28 trillion, I think is the number he used. And admittedly, more is going to be spent because he talked about Janet Yellen. And he's like, interest rates aren't going to, if interest rates go up, they're not going to go up much, and they're likely going to stay down for longer than people think. That's what he said. I don't remember if he said that exactly, but that's what he meant. Interest rates are going to stay low for longer than people think. And that's interesting, right? That's interesting to me because again, and he talked about, when the mask comes off and there'll be this rush of activity and these other things, he talked about supply chain constraints. And I've talked about that too, right? Lumber and cars. And a lot of that's just because people are missing and, all of that in there. So it's interesting to watch. He's making a call for interest rates staying below 3% on the 10 or on the mortgage rate. So we'll see if that happens. That was very interesting because again, he's like, nope, he's not really concerned about debt going up. And again, that's interesting to me. So I'm going to be watching that. I thought his discussion about Janet Yellen was very eye-opening, and I agree with him. She's never met a spending program she doesn't like. It'll be interesting to see where the governor, meaning who's going to control the spending, right? Is it Congress, right? I don't know. It's going to be interesting there. And then the conversation around affordability, right? That was really important for me, kind of in the middle, my last question, because that's my guide. And then he broke it down for folks to understand why, in my opinion, he broke down the affordability index, why it's so important. The way he broke it down is quite frankly why I look at that, right? Everybody has to have their one thing, and that's my metric, right? He tied in weekly wages and this interest rate and that. The affordability index that I watched takes all of that into account. So I felt better about it. And quite frankly, it saved me once and it's going to save me again. So I was very happy to hear him. He's a wealth of knowledge. It'll be interesting to see if he comes back and talks to us every 90 days or so for 30 minutes. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I really want to get him back on. And I thought, like to your points, absolutely. Talking about supply chain and the fact that as the masks come off, as we hopefully start to get to, at some point in a normal, that we do actually see, prices of goods, start to either stabilize and or even maybe even come down. I thought that was interesting that, the
well, that's his point. Yeah, that's his point. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a subtle point that I hope people go pick up.
Yeah, and then too, I love your question. It's funny because I love that you talk about the affordability index. And again, by the way, a lot of the stuff we talk about, like the stuff that Michael talks about, the stuff that, Adrian, myself, that we talk about, like the affordability index, it's just a Google away, right? So your state, the state of Nevada, the state of California, affordability index, it's published somewhere. And so that information's out there, but I 100%, I love the fact that how he talked about the affordability index. And then to your point, it removes a lot of the complexity for us because we're not looking at job reports and the average incomes and are they up or down compared to, the cycles or any of that. We just look at the affordability index and that just gives us an indicator of potentially what the market direction, a probability of what the market direction is. So.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'll just say this. I love looking at this stuff. I probably look at 5 or 3% of the things that he looks at, right? I just don't have the time nor the inclination. I'm a real estate guy, right? That's what I'm doing. My time's on real estate. He is clearly wild. He makes me look like a kindergartner. And it's a lot of fun. And again, where I want to bring this up is you can get lost in the details. The thing about economics and statistics in general is if you look at any one statistic, it could tell you this or that. So you've got to get comfortable. You got to understand the jargon. But really at the end of the day, for me, you've got to find your lane and the lane that impacts, again, real estate, right? He's in mortgages. He's in stocks. He's doing all of these wonderful things. And I'm like, dude, he is, he's the top 1%. It was a lot of fun. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, no, thank you. And your questions were great. So again, what we're doing is Adrian he was on earlier. He had to depart. He had an appointment to go to. Michael and I and Adrian just finished interviewing Barry Habib from MBS Highway. He's the founder and CEO of MBS Highway. And this guy is an absolute winner. He is just an absolute treasure chest of knowledge and expertise. I love too, and I love that you jumped on to the bio piece, specifically the crystal ball. Just talk about that for a minute. Because also, if you have not watched it yet and you're watching this now and you're at this point in the video, make sure, do yourself a favor and not just watch the interview with Barry Habib once. I think you need to, I know for me, I'm going to watch it 2 or 3 times over the weekend to really absorb all of the details that Barry shared. Talk about the Crystal Ball Award before we wrap up.
Yeah, so he is the only winner of that award twice. He is basically in the rarefied air of competing with Goldman Sachs and Blackstone and the creme de la creme of, people who are asked to put out the predictions, interviewed on TV, often called the talking heads. And where Barry Habib shines is he calls it how he sees it. He talked about very early on, talking about the 10-year going to 1% when it was over 2. People laughed at him. Then he was brought back on TV when it was 1%, and he was right. He goes, "You guys haven't seen anything yet. It's going to 0.5." He was laughed at. He was right again. So folks, he's made some ballsy calls, and you can't be right all the time, but damn, I like his batting average.
100%. So thank you for watching. You've got Mr. Michael Zuber. You can follow him at One Rental at a Time. He's on Instagram. He's on Facebook. I think the best thing you do, Michael, is the YouTube channel. Tons of great content, daily financial news. I don't even watch the news anymore. I just watch Michael's news because it keeps me up to date. Barry Habib, the interview will be posted on Michael's channel as well as here in the Facebook group and various places. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks, Michael.
You got it, brother.
Have a great day, man. Have a good weekend.